What's happening, guys? Mr. Rouge again, and this time we're talking about the characteristics of life, the characteristics of living things. So, we have to ask ourselves first, what is biology? And obviously, you might say, duh, Mr. Rouge, biology is the study of life. Well, then we got to ask ourselves one more question. What is life? That's pretty deep. So, if you think about it, Earth is the only place that we know of that has living things that we know of. And life is very, very unique. So it makes us ask the question, how do we define what is alive? How do we define what is considered living? Is it the ability to reproduce? Because living things have to create further generations. They have to spread. Well, if it's just the ability to reproduce, you could say fire also reproduces and fire also spreads. So we can't consider that a good definition of what a living thing is. If we ask the question, is it because living things use energy? Well, that's a good one because we constantly have to eat food to obtain energy, and plants have to use the sun to obtain energy, but also your computer uses energy. So that alone is not a good test to decide if something is living. I got this. What if it's the ability to interact with the environment, to move around, to interact, to change the environment? That'd be a good question if that's what makes living things. But, as we advance, we're getting robotics that's able to, do acrobats better than we can. So that right there isn't good, isn't a good enough definition for what makes a living thing alive. And then in biology, in a few weeks, we'll even study some other things that are very, very close or very, very similar to being alive. And there's actually some debate whether or not these agents are alive. And I'll just tell you right now, this is a virus. There's debate whether viruses are considered living things or not because they lack certain qualities, okay, of typical living things. So in order to know all the characteristics of life, I made this memory aid, this study tool to help you, and I call it dog race, okay? So each letter in dog race is going to help you remember one of the characteristics, okay? So the first characteristic is DNA. All living things have DNA. Now, what does DNA do? DNA is information to make proteins, and you are made up of proteins. Where did you get your DNA from? You got it from your parents. Okay, so that's what this word means right here. Heritable. Heritable information. Heritable means it's passed down from generation to generation. You got it from your parents. And why is it information? Because it's information to make proteins. If you notice there's no pencil in this corner, just go ahead and kick back and just listen for a few moments, and I'll show you the one slide to take notes on, okay? So the first characteristic of all living things is DNA. The next characteristic, another good point, the structure of DNA is the same in all life. So the structure of your DNA is the same as the DNA that's in a plant or the DNA that's in a bacteria. It's the same structure, same organization, okay? The next characteristic of living things is organization. What this means is living things are built from cells, okay? The cell is the basic unit of all life, and those cells will later make tissues. Those tissues will make organs, those organs will make organ systems, and those organ systems will eventually make an organism, okay? Now, I just want to throw this concept out there. There's going to be a whole nother lesson on just organization, okay? But all living things are very, very organized. The next characteristic is all living things grow and develop. Now, here's the difference between growth and development. Growth would be getting more cells, or your cells actually getting bigger, okay? Just like how you grow from a small toddler to, a young adult. Development is an actual change in the structure. So if I look at this bone right here, let's take a look at this. If I look at this bone right here, yes, this bone is growing, it's getting bigger, but also the structure is changing. You're getting less of this soft cartilage tissue, and you're getting more of this calcified bone structure, okay? So development is changes in structure. Another example of growth would be the growth of this plant. Okay, it's growing in size, it's getting more cells, and those cells are getting bigger. And then development would be it changes its structure. Now we actually see this, it's very common in our cells. We will see our stem cells that are just kind of plain, but then those stem cells, they will develop or change in structure to form many other types of cells, like muscle cells or blood cells or nerve cells. They may not have gotten bigger, but their structure has changed, and that's development. R is for reproduction. All living things have to reproduce. Why is reproduction important? It keeps the species alive, okay? If living things weren't able to reproduce, that species and all life would go extinct. Now there's two types of reproduction. There's asexual reproduction and there's sexual reproduction. The difference is, in asexual reproduction, the parent and the offspring are the same. They're identical. Anytime you see this prefix a, that means not. Okay, and we're going to add that to your prefix and suffix list pretty soon. A means not, okay? So an example of asexual reproduction would be in bacteria. You would see you have one parent cell and it splits into two cells. And these two cells are completely identical to the original. That's asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves two parents, okay? And it creates variation. So if I look at these offspring, these pups in this wolf pack, all of these offspring have different traits or different characteristics because of sexual reproduction, okay? Sexual reproduction creates variation, and that's actually why if you have siblings, you're all different. You both have similarities, but you're very, very different. And we're going to talk more about this later on in the year. Next, we have adaptations. Adaptations allow an organism to better survive the environment. So for example, these camels, a big adaptation for camels is their ability to drink massive amounts of water. They can hold up to like 50 gallons of water because in the desert, you know, it's rare for them to come across more water. So an adaptation for the camel is they're able to hold so much water. And an obvious adaptation for the snow owl is its color. Its color allows it to blend in so it won't be seen by other predators, or, you know, the prey won't see it coming, okay? But the big idea is adaptations help the organism survive, okay? Another characteristic, so this is adapt and respond. Adapt and respond. Adaptations take place over the long term. Responding is very, very quick, okay? So let me give you an example. Let's say the temperature gets super hot. That's a stimulus. How is your body going to respond to that? You start to sweat, okay? What if it's super, super cold? How is your body going to respond to that? You're going to start to shiver. What if it's been several hours since your last meal? You get hungry, okay? So adaptations take place over generations. Responding to a stimuli is much quicker. And the reason why your body has to do this is it has to maintain an internal balance. It has to maintain this fancy word right here. Homeostasis. And all that means is maintaining normal conditions, okay? So you could survive. The next characteristic is all living things are made up of cells, okay? So if you're a bacteria, you're made up of at least one cell, like this little critter. But we're made up of many cells like this. This would be a multicellular organism, okay? So you and I, plants, trees, all your pets, we're made up of many, like trillions of cells, okay? And even the smallest living thing is made up of at least one. So the cell is the basic unit of all life. If you're living, you are at least one cell big, okay? And the last characteristic is energy. We have to have energy. So where do we get our energy from? Well, let me backtrack real quick. Why do we need energy? We need energy for our metabolism. That's a fancy word, metabolism. All metabolism means is the chemical reactions in your body, okay? And these are the chemical reactions in your body. This is your metabolism. All these biochemical pathways and processes going on. It's very complex. This is going on like every cell of your body, okay? Now, we have to obtain energy for these processes to occur. So where do we get this energy from? If you're a plant, you're going to get that energy directly from the sun. But you're not a plant. You're an animal, okay? Humans are considered animals. We have to eat other living things. So we have to obtain that energy from other life, okay? So if you're a plant, you get it from the sun, or you have to eat it. Now, I want to throw this out there. I want you to take a look at this. And this looks very, very complex, right? All these crazy processes going on. These processes don't go on if your diet consists of hamburgers and French fries. Hamburgers and French fries don't supply these vitamins and minerals and enzymes that are needed for these processes to occur. So that is a much healthier diet to allow these processes to occur. So if you've ever wondered like why is a healthy diet healthy and why is an unhealthy diet unhealthy? It's because the healthy diet allows these processes to go much better. Hamburger and fries does not allow these processes to go very smooth, okay? So just a little connection to your diet. All right, this is the one slide that I do want you to take note of. There is the pencil, so please jot all of this down, and this is all the notes. Dog race, okay, that's the characteristics of life. D stands for DNA. O stands for organization. All living things are organized. G is for grow and develop. All living things grow and develop. R is for reproduce. All life has to reproduce or it'll go extinct. A is for adapt and respond. Remember, adaptations are long-term over generations, and responding to a stimuli or responding to your environment is much quicker, okay? C, all living things are made up of at least one or more cell. And lastly, E, all living things require energy. Please jot these down and highlight these little short ones. That'll help you study better. And that is it for today, and I will catch you all next time. See ya.